2018. We're starting at 1 p.m., so it'll be taped and broadcast later. We're on Sound City Council. We did not have a closed session today, so we're starting right at number 4 on our agenda, so calling for additional business. Staff, anything? Go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship, I'd like to introduce our new Director of Operations.
Oh, why don't you do that right now?
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Dennis Kafalis. Dennis comes to us from Yellowknife, a very experienced municipal manager, and we're very glad to have him. He's been here 1 week, Dennis? 2 weeks, there you go. Time flies when you're having fun. So we look forward to Dennis joining the team and working with council and the public.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you.
Anything from any other staff? No? Okay. Council? I thought, Scott, did you have your hand?
Thanks, Mayor. I have one, and it is regarding the unveiling of the Dora Plaque Garden with the Sydenham Bruce Club.
Okay, others? Looking that way. Travis?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just have one final update on the Young Professionals Network.
Good, thank you. Councillor Thomas?
I think it's on. No, I think I turned it off.
Oh, you got a strange one?
Yeah, there it's on now. Your Worship, I have 2 items today, one on the Community Wellbeing Survey and the second one on the Corkscrew City Beer Bus Tour.
Okay. And I'll give a quick recite of some of the things I've done in the last couple of weeks. It's number 5, disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Anyone? Seeing none. Confirmation of the council minutes at number 6. It'll either be...
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Leary, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on May 28th, 2018 be printed as adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. Number 7, motion to move council into committee of the whole.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Leary, that City Council now move into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, the consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and other additional business.
Thanks. All in favor? That's carried. So we're now in committee of the whole. We have no public meetings. Deputations, this is a special one. 9A, we welcome the Blue Water Chorus performance. So welcome.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to perform for you today. I am Diane Hingston, and I am director of this wonderful chorus, Blue Water Chorus. We are part of a big organization. We are all members of the Sweet Adeline International Organization. We are women from all around the world who enjoy 4-part singing in the barbershop style. Through the world, we all have regions. So our region is number 2. It's the Border Lakes region, and it includes Ontario and Michigan. We practice every Tuesday night in Owen Sound at the First United Church, 7 o'clock, and we welcome ladies from the age of 14 and up as high as you can go, as long as you're still standing and willing to be able to sing with us. We welcome you. As you can see, with the 4-part harmony, and I'm going to use the chorus here a bit, we have a lead section. Leads, if you could wave. They sing our melody, and the melody I'm saying is the most important part because I happen to be a lead as well. But we sing the majority of the time the tune of the song. We hold the tune. And then we have the tenors, and you could give a little wave. 2 little gals there. They sing high above the melody, just like a little bell up there. Then we have the baritones. 2 baritones, and they are a very unique part. When the baritone is singing in the group, it's very hard to pick them out. But if they're not there, you certainly notice that they're not there. They sing above the lead, and they sing below the lead. And then we have the anchors of our barbershop chord. That is our bass section. And they sing, of course, the lowest part. Almost like the men, but sometimes they can reach it. So we enjoy performing in the public as much as we can, so any groups that would like to invite us to join, just give us a call. We have a website, www.bluewatersweetadelines.com. So we're here today. I have some pamphlets here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave them on the table. If anybody is interested, from our guest as well, they can take one home. So we're going to sing 3 songs for you today. Our first is Trickle Trickle, and we don't want that, we don't want that rain to last through this summer, so that's our first song, and then I'll tell you the rest because I'm not mic'd over there. Then we're going to sing Love the World Away by Kenny Rogers, and One Fine Day is our final one. Thank you for having us today.
Thank you, looking forward to it.
Take my hand, all the magic's waiting there for you. Every now and then, when the world steps in, stealing all our time away, it soon takes so much we forget to touch. That's when I know it's time for me to say, take my hand, let's walk through love's door and be free from the world once more. Here's my arms, we can hide today and love the world away. Once again we'll be where our hearts are free, and the time is ours to share. Love will always stay, just a touch away. Come with me, all the magic's waiting there. Take my hand, let's walk through love's door and be free. 4. Shoo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-wop-wop. 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 One fine day, you'll look at me, and you will know our love was meant to be. And one fine day, you're gonna want me for your good. Shoo-doo-doo-doo-doo-wop-wop. Shoo-doo-doo-doo-doo-wop-wop. The arms alone for will open wide, and you'll be proud to have me right by your side. And one fine day, you're gonna want me for your good. Shoo-doo-doo-doo-wop-wop. Shoo-doo-doo-doo-doo-wop-wop. Oh, I know you're the kind of boy who only wants to run around, wants to run around. I'll keep waiting, and someday, darling, you'll come to me when you want to settle down. One fine day, we'll meet once more, and then you want to love you through and before. And one fine day, you're gonna want me for your girl. You're gonna want me one fine day.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor
Just a
Wright.
minute, I want to say thank you, and honestly, that's the nicest way to start a council meeting I could ever think of. So I hope you'll come back sometime, and as you can see, we really thoroughly enjoyed that music. It was lovely. Your choice was wonderful too, but the voices are great. Thank you so much for coming. That's great.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks again.
Great day.
It really. That was good. Isn't that nice?
So our next deputation is from Marie Budgeon, store manager of the Owen Sound Artists Co-op, and she will be singing her presentation as well.
Is this on? Yeah, I just want to thank whoever scheduled this today so that I got to come on and perform after that beautiful, that was really beautiful. I'm afraid mine will not be so beautiful. So good afternoon, your worship, members of council, city staff, people in the audience, including the members of the Artist Co-op who came today. I'm very grateful that they were able to take time out of their working schedule to come and support the Artist Co-op and our workshop project. So I'm here today representing the Owen Sound Artist Co-op, obviously, to let you know about an exciting new project under the umbrella of the co-op. The workshop, the Center for the Advancement of Craft. For the last 24 years, the Artist Co-op has played a large part in the Grey Bruce arts and culture scene. And the last decade has seen many collaborations and partnerships in our community. We constantly field calls from people wanting pottery classes or art classes in general for their children who are suffering from the clawed-back art curriculum in the schools. Knowing that the arts are integral to a vibrant community and a growing economy, we wanted to create a space where people can come together and get their hands dirty, a space for making, creating, and educating, a space that welcomes artists and is a creative hub for the region. And as you can see, our tagline, our elevator pitch, we will make you proud of your dirty fingernails. Make sure I can do this. Voila. So, to that end, recently we leased 948 2nd Avenue East. This retail building was formerly Henrik's Jewelers and is adjacent to the Owen Sound Artists Co-op, so it's perfectly situated. There's 2,400 square feet, and it really is an ideal space for this vital project that we're embarking on. Oh, yeah, I knew I'd do that wrong. There. So the workshop will be a creative hub unlike any other in our region, focusing on 3 main disciplines: printmaking, jewelry and metalwork, and pottery. The workshop will feature all the specialized equipment needed for these mediums, as well as a swing space for other mediums that may not require the specialized equipment. Our research and development has identified 5 streams of users. First, we are looking at education, then we'll have a resident program, professional development, studio space and equipment rental, and an artistic and creative hub, community collaboration, partnerships, and connections. So we'll start with education. And local youth, adults, seniors, and community service groups will have opportunities to take classes, workshops, and summer camps. Then our community creative hub and collaborative space. So we've been in talks with many organizations, including Georgian College, the Tom Thompson Art Gallery, schools, single media arts organizations, local artists, and galleries, to let them know that we are encouraging collaborations with everybody in any way we can. Professional development. Looking at, from my point of view, I'm a jeweler, and currently I have to travel hours away to attend any professional development or master class in my field. Opportunities will be available for established artists to attend and teach master classes. And the resident program, we're very excited about this. Studio space will be available for recent graduates from accredited arts programs to lease on a full-time basis. These students act as the technicians for the school and will have the opportunity to teach, share resources, and connect with practicing artists. Graduates launching their artistic practices in a resident program have a much higher rate of success in their careers. And then studio and equipment rental. Equipment for our three main disciplines are often very large, heavy, and expensive. Most recent graduates and many professional artists do not have equipment to things like large printing presses, casting equipment, slab rollers, and rolling mills. Just so you know, on the right it's a printing press, on the left it's a rolling mill for jewelry to make wire and to thin out metal or to etch it. Emerging and practicing artists will have access to the equipment and space on a rental basis. So to the Hendrick Building. So the interior of the workshop, an interior of the Hendricks Building has been renovated to expose architectural details originating from its genesis as the Molson Bank well over 120 years ago. The front space will be used for printmaking and a swing space. So that's on the left, the front space. You can't see really, it is beautiful once you get in there, seeing the architectural detail on the original molding that has been brought back and the beautiful floor. On the right, you see the hallway that leads to the middle studios, and that arched feature, that kind of crumbling arch you see, is the original vault with 2 feet thick walls. And there's actually some great historic stories. I won't share them today. You have to come down and I'll give you the tour about that vault and when it was the Molson Bank. Then we move into the middle space. So from on the right, you're looking you're standing in the east looking west, and then vice versa, you're standing in the west looking east on the second part. The middle studio will be split in half with pottery on the left and jewelry on the right. There'll be 6 pottery wheels, all the equipment to go with it, 6 jewelry benches, equipment, torches, things to go with that. And then through those doors, you see on the right is the rear studios. It will be the dirty rooms, with buffing, casting, glazing, kilns, and spray booths. The design of the workshop space takes into account the unique practices of each discipline and has coordinated the extraction and ventilation of the space. We have explored the best practices standards for a safe working environment for everyone. In our research, we've studied Owen Sound's cultural master plan for the visual arts, which was updated in 2012. And I just want to point out a few things from that. The goal was to encourage and support excellence and exchange within a vital and vibrant visual arts community. And some of the highlights that we've drawn out are: the city shall support and participate in provincial and federal funding opportunities and access funding that allows for distribution to local visual artists. Another, to provide opportunity for local artists to lease studio space at reasonable rates. Local artists have an opportunity to generate work and living income. Another is to recognize and support the visual arts as a vehicle for the interpretation and celebration of a unique Owen Sound. and support recognition for providing public space, funding and partnership, promotion, and expertise. The Artist Co-op is a strong presence in our community arts and culture scene, and we hope that in the future we will be able to access some of this support. Currently, we're asking nothing of you, but we want to make sure you are aware of our plans. We hope to talk to city staff and do research on how the city can help us with our goals. Our estimated projection for the school to get up and running is $340,000. That's just to get it up. That's not the operation. You know what I'm trying to say. Next. So the community benefits from the workshop will be great, and these are only a few of them. Looking at it becoming an economic driver, a tourism driver, people will come from all over to take classes in the summer. Of course, the residents, all those people will be coming and they will be living here and they'll be spending money here. I think it's really important to the downtown revitalization. We're looking at downtown as being an arts and culture, mom and pop type of specialty stores. We see 2 new galleries are opening up recently, the Artist Co-op, De Boer Gallery. There's an art walk coming up on the 23rd of June that has 8 galleries participating in it. So that downtown revitalization is very important to all of us. There'll be tons of youth engagement and senior engagement, and it has been proven that arts and culture improve the well-being index of any community, and we will grow our artistic community. People will want to locate here because they will have access to this equipment and to this artistic community and create that creative hub. So what we've done, or what we're doing to accomplish this very real dream, we've been pursuing grants. We have 2 grants that we have applied for now. We do not find out if we're successful in them until the fall. There is a bit of a chicken and egg situation because you have to have a 10-year lease in order to apply for these grants. So we have a lease now, so that is our building and we're paying the rent in it now. We've made up corporate and individual sponsorship packages that we're going to start passing around. Not today necessarily, maybe. We have a tool drive coming up. We've been collecting tools, any kind of tools, whether they're craft-specific, art-specific, or just to hammer a shelf together. And what we don't need, we plan on selling at the Hottest Street Sale, which is on July the 7th. We'll have the building open and tools for sale as a fundraiser. We are going to have a gala fundraiser in September, which we're very excited about. It's going to be very shishi in the building. So that will be happening in September. We've opened up an endowment fund at Community Foundation Grey Bruce. We are a non-for-profit. However, we don't have charitable status, so we've opened that up so we can now provide charitable tax receipts to anybody that's donating. And we've done a ton of research into partnerships and collaborative opportunities within our community. I was speaking on the weekend with somebody from Collingwood who teaches in the high school there, and they're very excited about this. So this can reach beyond Grey and Bruce County, I believe. It's going to be a big, important piece of our huge region. As I mentioned, we're not asking for anything today, but I hope to be back sometime in the future with an update and perhaps some concrete plans on how the city can be involved. Meanwhile, please think about our project and how you can help. This is a community project. It's not for profit. It's just us believing that this community needs this. And as artists, all of us know that having a place like this will only make our lives easier. So think about how you can help us and spread the good word. I did forget, of course, a very important part, which was to put our website on. So I'm going to Vanna White it. My co-op student helped me do this today. So that is our website and phone number. If anybody wants to contact us, the information for the workshop is not on the website. It will be by the end of the day. But and you can Google us. Google loves us. We come up pretty high in the art community in Owen Sound. So thank you very much for listening.
So to contact you by email was info@artistcoop.ca
with
with an
an S.
S. Website is www.artistscoop.ca. or phone 371, we better put in that 519-371-0479.
Is that,
Or just drop into the Artist Co-op at any time and ask you questions.
ask questions, yeah, this was I only touched on everything. It's quite an in-depth, complicated, and exciting project.
Good. I think there'll be some questions before you leave here, so we won't have to use the telephone. Go ahead, Marion.
Thank you, Worship. First of all, Morag, I'd like to thank you very much for your dedication to artists and artisans in the area and what you do for the downtown. It just has given it a new lift. And also, I think this will help expand the uniqueness of our downtown. So thanks for that.
My pleasure.
And anyone else? Councillor Lemon?
I think this is a great thing you're doing, and you're to be congratulated. It's interesting that Owen Sound is already a cultural hub, and this will just further enhance it. The number of artists in this area, I would be in the hundreds, if not more. And this will encourage young people. I'm particularly pleased because the schools, as you said at the beginning of your address, have largely cut back on art classes and arts education, which is one of those pillars of education that has gone the way of the dodo bird, along with our recreation activities. But thank you very much for what you're doing. I'm sure for everyone in the community this will be a benefit.
Thank you, Councillor Lemon.
Deputy Mayor Wright?
Thank you. Morag, you know, I've gone by the Leggett Building so often and thought that's where people should be doing crafts in the windows so that others could walk by and look in and see them. There's two big windows at this building. Are you going to have them wide open? Can people stop and look in? Can people go in? You know, when you go to a tourist town, how often there's a glass blower or something and you can walk in, and is that going to happen here?
It is not right away. The structure, fortunately, I guess the structure, the front of the store is not heritage. That was taken down. The top is, the bottom isn't. So in our plans in the future are to change that. It's just a concrete front right now. I can go to the very back.
But there are two big windows.
Yes, but there's two big, so eventually, and it probably within a year or two, we're hoping just to have it like the Co-op. It's just going to be glass at the front with a window on the right. People can come in. Another plan in a Plan B, once things get going, is to have a causeway from the Artist Co-op. There are some complications there with firewalls and things, but we're working through that so that people can be in the Co-op and they can walk around through there. Will be a gallery in there as well with a wall of students' work or people who are doing things. So people can walk in there and look at the work, look at the people working. The idea is similar to Harbourfront, where you can stand and watch the monkeys making their things. That will be us. So we don't want the public just wandering around. We'll probably have a nice velvet rope or some kind of deterrent from people wandering in. But that was the original idea, was to have something that people can see. And then through to the back room, where a lot of the excitement happens, the jewelry and the pottery, some kind of sliding door that's glass that people that can walk in can see it. So that is definitely on our radar and a very important part of it. There's just some logistics to work out.
Well, that's absolutely great, and I would just advise anybody that's in the audience or listening to or watching us on TV, the Artist Co-op is the greatest place to go to buy a gift for yourself or for anyone that you need to go. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, we are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I can say that about us.
Anyone else? I've got two quick questions, unless anyone else does. Oh, the first one, where's the next closest workshop like this?
Halliburton, Burlington, I guess Burlington Centre of the Arts is the closest. Halliburton's been known for many, many years. People go there for summer workshops, and they've actually just become accredited with Sir Sanford Fleming, which is one of the reasons we've been in talk with Georgian, because we think there's a great partnership there. And they have said that they are interested. They would never bring any programs like jewelry, things that they have in Barrie here unless they knew that there was a call for it. But they could have labs. People could come and do work. They are teachers. So really, that's a second thing that I've just answered, in case you wanted to ask that, but Burlington, Toronto, you can go to places in Toronto, but there's nothing really closer than Toronto.
I have a very perfect, clear memory of after the bowling alley got taken out in 2nd Avenue between 7th and 8th Street. At least one summer, there was something exactly like this where university students were coming in from, it wasn't Georgian College students, they're coming from elsewhere for the summer and did pottery and did a whole bunch of things. And I remember hanging around there a lot as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, I don't remember the exact year. My second question, you said there is a artist tour?
Yes, so there is an art walk. It's the first inaugural art walk. So it's taking place on June 23rd. A lot of information you can find in the Mosaic magazine and probably on the Mosaic website. So it's from 10 till 4, and there'll be 8 galleries taking part, plus there is, and I'm not, forgive me if I get this slightly wrong, I was not at the last meeting, with the CMA, with the Canadian Mental Health, are doing a project on canvases with Billy Goodcat spray painting, and those will be on display, plus there'll be one that's happening during the day. So in each of the galleries will have some kind of unique thing. We'll probably have the tours of the workshop and it just shows how many galleries there are in the downtown area.
So 2 Saturdays from now, for more information, again, Artist Co-op, you'll have information there, and it'll be a great way to
Yeah, and Mosaic to find out about the art walk.
tour. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. That gets us through deputations and presentations, now up to number 10 in our agenda, and that's public question period. If there's anyone that wishes to ask a question, get you to step up to the mic, state your name, ask your question. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Peter Reed. 2 quick questions.
Yep.
The first one has to do with the DIA. I was trying to get information from them, and I've been waiting, it's about 2 months now, for a reply to an email. So I decided to check their minutes of their meetings and that, to see if I could dig up that information there. And I was wondering if there's any reason that they haven't been publicized or brought to council
Does anyone have an answer?
this year.
Go ahead.
I will try and answer that. The minutes have to be approved by the board first.
Yes.
So with their AGM, the minutes weren't sent to their AGM because that would have been a separate meeting. Then the administrator there was away on vacation, and our last meeting was only a week ago, and they weren't able to get them on this agenda. But I'm expecting that they will be on the next agenda.
Okay, but there's been none this year so far?
I don't know that, but they've, I thought there were some earlier this year.
Do you know, Brianna? Do you recall?
We haven't received any for this year yet.
Sometimes they need a reminder, and I'm sure they've received that.
Okay.
Yeah.
My next question is more of a suggestion. All the business licenses, of course, are approved by council. And the council is often talking about promoting new business and such, which is fantastic. And I understand how busy you guys all are, and ladies. But would it be something to consider that, as you're approving these business licenses, you kind of make a mental note to maybe one day drop in there and have a look at what the businesses of Owen Sound are offering, and especially the new businesses that could use the support and a little promotion from everybody?
Yeah, you'd mentioned earlier something about that, and it had gone into the back of my mind, and I can't remember if I talked to anybody about putting together a bit of a package of information to help a new business on, I think that came from you,
It could have, I know we talked about this
and it
before.
makes sense to be able to give an information package and be able to follow up, that we probably don't as well as we could.
I know with one of my tenants and my partner, Stephanie, and All Things Tea, the tourism department had come into her store to drop off flyers for the city from the city to, promote, tourism and such. And being open 15 months, they didn't realize until that part that she was actually, serving beverages and should have been listed in the restaurant guide and wasn't. And that's-
Interesting. Yeah, good suggestion. So we're lacking between signing the license and getting that information through.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's, the downtown businesses, they all tend to struggle somewhat as it is. And I think anything that the council can do to promote this is a good thing. And if it just means walking through the door to see what's actually in a store that you've signed a license on.
Good suggestion. Thank you. Oh, Jim, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just inherent in that is you're suggesting we don't. How do you know if we go through to these stores or not? I try to go as many as I can, and I know many members do. It's good to have a suggestion, but you're suggesting we don't do that.
I'm suggesting from my personal experience that you haven't been in, I don't think, in any of my 3 tenants. Am I incorrect in that, or correct, or?
I'd have to check.
Okay.
But anyway, it's a good suggestion. We can do more to support, or to promote downtown businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
No? Okay, go ahead.
Along those lines too, we haven't had minutes from Festival Northern Lights come forward in a long time. Is there a reason there, or we just don't get those anymore?
We should be getting minutes, but we haven't received any. We can follow up with them.
Maybe send out an email to anybody that we have missed the last little while and get them up to speed. I did notice that Ms. Coulter was making notes as you were speaking, sort of to let those ideas filter through. So we'll see where we get to at economic development, and thanks for the suggestion. So, number 11, correspondence received for which direction of council is required. So 11A is correspondence from Association Municipalities of Ontario with regard to delegations for the 2018 AMO conference. Do you want to go ahead? Yeah.
Yes, through your worship, the AMO requests delegations from municipalities, and staff are requesting that any submissions be provided to the executive assistant by June 22nd so that she can put the submission together. Suggestions so far include unresolved court security issues, new legislation regarding auxiliary officers, and changes to the arbitration system.
Anyone have any other thoughts? These are always hard when we're sitting at the council table to try and think of them, and the ideas bounce into your head at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're awake thinking about nothing else. Jim?
Just one suggestion. With the new government coming in, I think the number of grants we receive is going to be under scrutiny, I believe anyway. And I might ask the city manager just to take a look at some of the grant opportunities that we get, and are there any in particular? I'm thinking of the roads, I can't think of the name right now, but the Connecting Link, thank you, Councillor Lemon. The Connecting Link funding, for instance, would be good, and gas tax would be another, but if there's some that are particularly important to our budget, they all are, but perhaps that might be a meeting to try and set up on that particular issue.
Go ahead.
Just add on to that, it's also right that we do not receive any grant for policing, but everybody around us does, so I mean, we should be taking a look at that as well. Or asking them to take a look at that as well. We're a small municipality and everybody else gets grants.
If I could on that one, Your Worship, the policing grants are part of the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. That would be a difficult one to open, but we can certainly investigate it, but that's where those grants are coming through.
Councillor Lemon, you had your hand up?
Yeah, one of the things that does concern me very much is, and the city managers have spoke about that, to see where the provincial government's going with that. Is the new government going to eliminate it? Because that would be devastating to us. And I think we should do a presentation on the importance of that basic funding.
Good, thanks. Anyone else? Go ahead. Councillor Gregg?
Just have an inquiry on the changes or the new draft in the Watershed Planning Act. But this might be something then our Director of Community Services might be able to touch upon a little better than I can because of the scope and the particular impact that Owen Sound would have. I mean, if there was more of if your expertise was there, we might gain more so from it, but just wondering on who's going and so forth maybe, and your input on that draft in particular.
I could, Your Worship, I believe Ms. Coulter is away training that particular week. We've already discussed it, so, but we will certainly, those who don't attend will give us all the information for council who is attending, as well as whoever does attend from staff, to present our best issues, our best cases, our best stances.
Okay. So today's the 11th, 22nd, 11 days. If you've got ideas and you think there's something that we should be discussing with the provincial government or the new provincial government, please let Sharon know. So Sharon Edwards. And then we can prepare a presentation and go from there. Thanks. So I should have a motion to receive that at least. Councillor Gregg has moved that. All in favor? It's carried. 11B, correspondence from Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario.
Through your worship, liquor service will be starting at 9 a.m. rather than 11 a.m. from June 14th to July 15th for the 2018 FIFA World Cup. This will only apply to businesses who already have a liquor license.
Good, thank you. Anyone need to discuss that? Councillor Dodd, have you got your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I would just move receipt of the correspondence.
Okay. FIFA, what is that? Soccer or something, isn't it, Jim? Jim, does this affect you in any way? I mean, the soccer part, not necessarily, but not the drinking at 9 a.m. part. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks. 12, reports from city staff. 12A, Director of Corporate Services with regard to Main Street Revitalization Initiative.
Thank you, Worship. Ms. Allen asked that I present this on her behalf today. So the province has made $26 million available to municipalities to support the Main Street Revitalization Initiative. Funding is directed to support revitalization, and examples are provided in the report, and they include things like an existing community improvement plan, facade improvements, or other municipal land use policy, signage, streetscaping, and landscaping improvements. The city has been allocated $56,524, and it needs to be spent by March 31st, 2019. At your meeting on May 28th, you received a staff report, and council was interested in additional options, so that is the purpose of the report. A number of suggestions are put forward for your consideration. The first is the decorative street pole replacement in the downtown. Many of these poles have reached the end of their useful life. The overall replacement will be $2 million, and it would be phased in. So one idea is to replace 10 poles with this funding. A downtown wayfinding signage. So this would be both signage to the downtown and then within the downtown toward parking and shopping and services. Third, the facade grant program, so it would be allocating the funds toward the existing program, reducing the amount raised from tax. Next, improved Wi-Fi in the downtown. And lastly, the idea of replacing the waste receptacles downtown. So there's 65 of these, and we could look at, and there's a separate report through operations, but bins with smaller openings, making it another deterrent in terms of household garbage in these, as well as recycling. So those options are put forward, Your Worship, and the recommendation is that after selecting one of the options, or if council has other ideas, then you would direct staff to bring forward a bylaw authorizing the agreement with AMO, and following the execution of the agreement, that you would ask staff to report to AMO on how the funds will be used as is required.
Thanks. Discussion? Go ahead.
Well, just want to thank Councillor O'Leary for asking for this report last meeting. I think it's been good information, and thanks to staff for bringing forward a couple more options. I know myself, 3.5 years ago, we're so stretched for tax dollars for most of the people in the city that it's just so important you get money like this to put it towards the uses that are so needed. We've got so much infrastructure and so many needs that need to be serviced going forward. I get concerned with some that are somewhat adding to what we already have. The street poles are great examples, approximately $2 million of work that we've got coming down the pipeline. So I think really looking at what we have now, street poles and the waste receptacles are the only two that fit that narrative. I know since staff have explored the multiple year capital budgets, and the street pole replacement was the recommendation a month ago. They've explored what was projecting out 3 to 5 years. That's still on the list. That's one I support. And I support that being the council last budget that actually a couple of those street poles at the north end, I kind of thought we maybe didn't have to replace, but that's a song for a different day. But I would move the report with the recommendation of putting the work towards the street pole replacement.
Okay, so motion is on, discussion?
What?
The street poles was originally recommended. Discussion, go ahead, Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can't support that motion. I'd really like to see the signage, the downtown wayfinding signage. I know we've talked a lot about the left-hand turns that we've eliminated coming down 10th Street. I know at the Operation Committee meetings months ago, we talked about how bad we need signage, decent signage, that's good size, that's directing people to our downtown, whether you're coming in from Meaford or coming in from Highway 6 and 10. We need something on 9th Avenue, and with the decision looming for free parking downtown, that will be more signage that we'll be looking to do. So I won't support that motion. I would hope that that council would move towards the signage. Thanks.
Other discussion? Deputy Mayor Wright?
I definitely agree with Councillor O'Leary. We did discuss it at Operations a number of months ago when we were talking about changing the 10th Street intersection and 2nd Avenue, and we talked about the signage that needed to go out there. And before I read this, I was under the impression that that was all a go and we were going to be doing that, but apparently there's no a budget line for that. So I'm not sure what the cost of that would be, but I can't see that it would take up the entire amount. And what I would really like to see is that we do the signs, and when whatever's left over, buy new receptacles for downtown and add recycle bins to it, the two together in some locations so that there is some recycling. So I won't support this motion, and I'll wait to see if there's another motion.
Others? Seeing go ahead.
I might suggest splitting the motion up, just so we don't, just in case, depending on the vote, we don't want to defeat the first item of the motion, one, which is to authorize the execution of the bylaw. Just my suggestion.
Okay, I'll wait just for a minute there, and then we'll come back to that. Anyone else want to discuss? Councillor McMahon?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be supporting the motion. While all of these items are interesting and you could argue needed, the streetlight pole replacement, as I spoke a couple of weeks ago, is a pressing issue. You just need to take a look at any number of them downtown, and if it's a visual issue right now as far as making our downtown look good, but I believe in the not too distant future it's going to become a safety issue because they are rusting out at a rapid rate. So, we can put it off, but there is no doubt it's not going to get cheaper, whether it's a year from now or 2 years from now, wherever it is. So, anyway, they're all fine. They're all good initiatives, but I'll be supporting the motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lemon, hand up, down, sort of?
Hand is up.
Okay.
In respect to that also, the energy efficiency on those lights, I imagine, is awful compared to LEDs. The new technology is there and improved. You can even get LED lights where you don't use any Ontario hydropower. There's solar. I don't think it would work on that street, particularly because it runs east-west and the buildings would block the sun. But I do think we should look into that priority. 8th Street is sort of the poor cousin to the rest of downtown and 9th Street, because the lights are very dim. They don't give the light cover, and I think we owe it to the business people in those areas. It's also a safety issue. Bright lights tend to discourage certain people from committing crimes, or less likely to. I think this is something we have to look at. Those lights were put in, I think, about 35 years ago, and the bottoms have rusted severely. The poles are not in the best of shape, and I think this is the time to do it when we have money in the pot.
Good, thank you. Others? From my point of view, I would have favored the improving the downtown Wi-Fi, which helps to keep business going and attract people into downtown. That's something that we'll be looking at future budgets. Any one of these, I think, is good. I think we've talked about for a long time, but haven't put it on the budget, about signage on 10th Street and 3rd Avenue East, especially to try and get people into the habit of going into the parking lots. I think it's really important. At the same point as Councillor Greg McMahon have pointed out, we've already approved these poles. They've been something that we've looked at in operations for a couple of years, I think, going back, trying to figure out. We've already approved a financial plan to pay for them, and this is kind of like found money for something that's already approved versus adding something else in. So I too am going to support Councillor Gregg's motion, but before we get there, he's going to split them up, I think, and try and get those corrected. So Ms. Bloomfield, if you can help us with, so just suggesting that he just move point 1 there on the recommendation.
So moved.
So that's just to direct staff to bring forward a bylaw authorizing mayor and clerk to sign the funding agreement with AMO. No discussion on that, I assume. All in favor? That is carried. Number 2, go ahead again.
Move that the recommendation is the street pole, decorative street light pole replacement to proceed and place the funds towards.
Okay, thank you. And so I don't think we need to discuss that further. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I just, so we've got 4 in favor, so I'm breaking the tie, making it 5, so it does carry. So 4 opposed. Next. Manager of Community Development Marketing with regard to Summertime Blues.
Thank you, Worship. Summertime Blues is a great annual summertime event, and this year Richard Sharp, the Concert Factory, is partnering on the event with the Owen Sound Attack. The event happens Friday, June 29th and Saturday, June 30th, and the lineup is provided for council's information. It will also feature outdoor food vendors, and the Attack will be providing the bar service with their joint facility license. The agreement will contain a number of standard clauses, including the requirement for $5 million in liability insurance, $2 million from third-party event vendors, and the requirement for the 2.5% ticket surcharge. Our municipal alcohol policy will apply to the event, and therefore an operational plan to the satisfaction of police services and EMS is required. As well, the AGCO approval of the license is required. There will be the Attack are using one of their 6 complimentary uses of the Bayshore for the event. However, they will pay for all the facility conversion charges, the ticket surcharge, as well as a small fee for the use of the grounds for the event. So the recommendation is that council would approve the licensed area June 29th and June 30th from 4 p.m. till 11 p.m. and that you would authorize a bylaw to execute the agreement with the Owen Sound Attack. Your worship, staff do need a bit more time to work out the agreement, so we won't be presenting we'd like your authorization to proceed with the bylaw, but it won't be approved in the bylaws today. It will come back at your next meeting.
Good, thank you. Questions? Councillor Lemon?
In order to have liquor, do they need that thing we passed on other events?
Through your worship, I think you're referring to municipal significance, and no, in this case, they don't, because they're using the attack license on
Oh, all
the
right,
facility.
fine. I just thought that we could pass that if it was required.
So basically, they're moving it that Friday night of June 29th and Saturday, June 30th into the Bay Shore, so they're weatherproof. And the lineup is still Alan Doyle, Serena Ryder, and Mays. It isn't Mays, but can't think of his name, on the Friday night, and then George Thorogood and the Destroyers and Pat Travers on the Saturday night. So that will be a good event. Okay. Any? Go ahead then.
I will move the recommendation that we approve this.
So all in favor? That is carried. 12C, report and engineering assistant with regard to Harbor Fest street closure.
Thank you, Your Worship. The organizers of Harbor Festival requested that a closure of First Avenue East from 10th Street to 12th Street East and from River Street, from Hill Street to the gates of the Miller Silo for the purposes of Harbor Fest. Friday night, River Street will be closed for part of the setup. It's a typical street closure request, and the recommendation is for council to grant the request.
Councillor O'Leary?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that recommendation. Looking forward to that. It's going to be a great event.
Go ahead.
And I support that motion to close it, but I need to say that I'm still concerned about the parking. I know it was raised last time and that they were using the health unit in the Bay Shore. You go down there and the health unit and the Bay Shore, that's quite a walk from there up to where the between 10th and 12th Street, where the action is for seniors or people with small families to park down there. I still think that you should, and the other thing is, there's the A&P, the beer store, National Grocers, the Boot and Blade, they're open all day. They don't want these people parking in their lot because then there's no room for their customers. So rather than create any kind of a boondoggle in there, will we consider bus transportation back and forth?
Certainly, our event coordinator would look at that. We are trying to keep this within a certain budgetary restraint, but we will look at it. We have discussed it internally. I can't give you a specific answer this afternoon, but we are looking at it.
Okay, I think if you go down and look, the walk from there to there, if you've got small children and you want them to come, that want families to be there, and you're taking all the parking off that one street where everybody is parking, I think you should take a look. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Councillor Lemon?
Well, one thing to consider, if we used some of the city buses, that would get people, that would be a good way of promoting our transit service. So I think there may be some kind of a way of doing this to benefit everyone.
Good, thank you. Councillor Dodd?
Just for maybe clarification, won't those buses still be in current use during those time period?
I can almost assure council the use of our city buses will not be one of the options we're looking at for a number of reasons. But we will consider some sort of transit, and again, I can't guarantee it'll fit within our budgetary needs, but we're going to look at it.
So coming back, Councillor O'Leary, you moved that right at the start, correct? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That is carried. So down to 12D, public notice of intention to declare surplus and dispose of municipal property.
Through your worship, the Miller Group submitted a request to purchase 2 parcels of land identified as PIN number 37054-0025 and 37054-0038. The Miller Group is looking to purchase these 2 parcels to complete a small land assembly with their recent purchase of 1370 2nd Avenue East. This report is strictly to initiate the process as required by our disposition of land bylaw. The recommendation listed for council's approval is to direct staff to provide notice and afford the public an opportunity to comment on the city's intention to declare surplus and dispose of the subject lands. Post notice on the city's website and in the Sun-Times. Bring forward a bylaw to declare surplus the subject lands, provided there are no public comments that oppose the declaration submitted prior to or at the public meeting. Obtain a valuation to determine market value by letter of opinion, and authorize the method of disposition to be by direct sale.
Good, thank you. Councillor O'Leary?
Just a question, the valuation, to determine the valuation of the market, once that is finished, then that'll just be the price that won't come back to council, it would just be right through?
Through your worship, there will most likely be some sort of negotiation, and it would be coming to council through a closed session report.
Thank you.
So at this point, we're not moving the sale, we're moving the notice to have a public meeting and declare, yeah. Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Worship. Just, I don't want to get too far ahead here, but is it anticipated that for this property, then a site plan would come forward for some future development? Is that, do we know that?
Through your worship, I don't think there's been a proposed use disclosed or a site plan presented to staff at this point, just the inquiry regarding the potential sale.
It's just, and I mean, I guess this will come back, it's odd to sell off city property as surplus without knowing what possibly the use could be.
If I could, your worship, certainly, as the clerk has mentioned, part of the process will be a negotiation between ourselves as the seller and the purchaser, and one of the questions council clearly will have of staff, what's the end use? So we will establish that with the purchaser before we come back to council.
Thank you.
The same point, it's two pieces that are kind of left odd with broken up in between, so you'd never get the road through. Whoops. So call the question, all in favor? That is carried. So we're down to public appointment of Accessibility Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Council, the Accessibility Advisory Committee at its meeting held on April 23rd, 2018 was notified of a resignation by one of its members with a disability. The Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act, otherwise known as AODA, requires that municipal accessibility committees be comprised of at least 50% members with a disability. Thus, following the resignation, the AAC was unable to meet for their regularly scheduled meeting in May. In response to the resignation, staff released the information to the public in hopes of attracting candidates to bring them forward for council's consideration for appointment. 2 applicants have applied, and both indicate that they have a disability as per the AODA. Staff are recommending to council that the first of the appointments is in place for the next AAC meeting scheduled for June 25th, 2018. Due to an accommodation request from one of the applicants, staff are recommending their term begin on September 1st, 2018, rather than immediately. This means the committee's total membership would not be increased until the month of September this year. However, with the appointment of the other candidate, Mr. Livingston, the committee will be able to meet in the meantime. With that, Your Worship, I'd be happy to take any questions council has at this time.
Good, thank you. Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just be more than happy to move this recommendation, and I'd also like to say thank you to Fred and Sandra for putting their name forward and to join the public committee.
Good, thank you. Others? Can I call the question, all in favor? That is carried. 12F, report from the Director of Community Service with regard to bylaw to appoint a new chief building official.
Thank you, Worship. The city is required to carry out enforcement under the Ontario Building Code and appoint a CBO as well as inspectors. Mr. Kevin Linthorne has been employed by the city since 2002 and is a qualified chief building official. Mr. Green will remain in a consultative capacity and also support for bylaw through this transition. So the recommendation is that council approve a bylaw to make this appointment.
Councillor Kepke?
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to make that recommendation.
Any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We're down to 13 is the consent agenda.
To your worship, on the consent agenda today are several reports, including a report from the Canadian Forces about the Canadian Forces use of the Billy Bishop Regional Airport, the Sydenham Sportsmen's Association's 31st Annual Salmon Spectacular, and the Street Fest Road Closure Report. There are minutes for receipt from the Library Board, Police Board, and Grace Harbor Conservation Authority. Business licenses were issued to the Fruitful Enterprises Food Truck and the Concert Factory for the Summertime Blues Music Festival. Lastly, there is correspondence received, which is presented for the information of council. A full listing is available at 13H.
Thank you. Mover? Have you got that? 13?
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself that City Council receives item 13A to 13H on the consent agenda dated June 11th, and that the recommendations contained in 13A, B, and C be approved.
Call the question. All in favor? That is carried. If I can come back to 13D. Councillor Thomas, anything on the Owen Sound North Grey Public Library Board?
It was really a business-as-usual kind of a meeting, Your Worship. Just a couple of notes. We had 21,000 visitors to the library in March. And while it's not contained directly in this report, membership from Meaford is actually up by over 100 people so far this year. So things are looking good at the library.
Good, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Thomas? Seeing none, Councillor O'Leary, Owen Sound Police Service Board.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things. There's a concern over Bill 175 in our auxiliary unit. The unit now falls under the mandate of the SIU. The issue is they are not indemnified by the Police Association or the board for insurance. It costs about $10,000 for each officer for insurance, and that would take us up to about $250,000. So this program will be looked at during service review. Speaking of service review, we are expecting a report from Joe Levesque this week, so we are moving along with that. And I think, as mentioned before, with the legalization of marijuana, it will be going through regardless of whether or not screening is available for impairment. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions? Councillor Lemon?
Is there no way we can add those officers onto any existing program?
That's auxiliary?
Auxiliary?
I believe we've sent a letter to show our concern. I don't think we're the only ones involved that have auxiliary officers. So we have tried, we have sent a letter, but we haven't heard back yet.
Have we asked the insurance company if they would allow the addition of these officers?
I believe that's part of what they're doing.
Okay.
As well as sending a letter to the solicitor.
Thank you.
We have more auxiliary than most cities or towns our size, volunteers. Good. Thank you. Grace Harbor Conservation Authority, Councillor Gregg.
There was not a whole lot of information there that is of regard to Owen Sound in that meeting, so unless there's some questions, but.
Anyone have any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We approved them, so now we're down to 14 committee minutes with recommendation for approval, so I think that's back to you.
Thanks, Mayor Buddy. In the May Corporate Services meeting, we did have a couple different issues. We started off with a deputation from a couple who live in the East Hill and were away during the winter season traveling in Florida. They did have somebody watching their house on a consistent basis. However, the reading was missed during the midwinter cycle, and then the reading was an actual reading in the early spring. It's a quarterly billing cycle for this customer. So after the estimate was done in January, they received a very high bill once the actual reading was taken in spring, and much to their obvious surprise, city staff have taken a look at the meter in place. Actually, originally they contacted the city, obviously, with the concern about the bill size, and they had their own plumber come in, take a look at the plumbing system, and also submitted or signed a letter on their behalf for submission to the city, finding nothing out of the way, no leaks, no apparent water consumption in the house. So city staff have exchanged the meter in the house and have, as of the day of the meeting, actually had ran the original testing However, that was very fresh information, so committee has asked for a subsequent report to come back with some more information and just confirmation that the meter was functioning properly and so forth with that. Is a pretty rare and isolated issue. It doesn't happen too much, and probably having the estimate taken in January because the read was missed as an actual may or may not have been a component of this too. So staff has been asked to bring back a report to the committee for more information. We had the time management stats of the fire department. We had one fire call with a loss during the month. It was about $3,500 approximately sustained to a building. And you'll notice that a lot of the other fire calls and responses are pretty much year and date to a third of, or in line with what they were last year after 1/3 of the year having passed, this being April's time management reports. We had just for information's sake, the large vehicle bylaw, which Operations Committee had go through at the last meeting and had been passed by council. We have the public meeting being held tomorrow during the Operations Committee regarding that bylaw. That was just presented for corporate services for information. We did have some of that information come to our committee last year, and including is the fee amount. So that was just taken and received for information's sake. We also have, pretty much for information's sake, correspondence with minor change to the flag flying proclamation for the city's information, or for committee's information. Notably, the flagpole will be at the south end of the City Hall building once it's completed. And the last larger item on the committee's table was to examine change to the dog limit. We had a deputation in April from a lady who had moved to Owen Sound from larger centers, and comparing to her past experience, found Owen Sound's limit of 2 to be low when compared to where she's lived previously. So she had asked for consideration to increase it to 3. We had the report come back, and committee was unanimous and agreeable to increasing to 3. Not too many concerns had been highlighted, but a lot of support that good dog owners currently who may be interested in going to 3, it may benefit our animal shelter as a place that they can go and purchase another animal. It's not likely to be more impactful to owners currently who may have 1 or 2 dogs, because those dogs are maybe not licensed anyway, so going to 3 is maybe not enhancing that nuisance that may be in place by some dog owners currently. So we didn't find too many negatives, but I would note that there was not a suggestion at the meeting for a public meeting, and perhaps council may want to have some conversation or consideration of adding a public meeting just to further dig into it, or exhume any potential negatives that we may have not considered or thought of. So I think with that, I'm open to any questions, and I'd ask for passage of those minutes.
So for approval? Questions? Not seeing any. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. So those minutes are approved. Thank you. Matters postponed, number 15, we have no matters postponed. Number 16, motions for which notice was previously given. Back to Councillor Craig.
This would be the motion that I spoke of last meeting, and I had been in touch with Dick Hidmer, our representative also on the Sawbo Conservation Authority Committee, and he had this correspondence start at Conservations Ontario and then go to AMO for passing through the municipalities in Ontario. So that's where it did originate. And this is simply asking then for supporting an increase in the base funding alongside our neighboring municipalities such as Chatsworth, Erin Ellerslie, County of Grey has also recently done it. The motion that City Council requests that the Province of Ontario increase base funding to Ontario Conservation Authorities, that's short form, but I have no problem with the expanded form if that's okay. I'm not sure if you would like me to read it in its expanded form. Yeah, so the motion that I'm asking for consideration and passage is the following. Subject to increased base funding to Ontario Conservation Authorities, that this Council of the City of Owen Sound recognizes that there is only one taxpayer supporting all levels of government, and that these are challenging times for the Province of Ontario with respect to its budget. We also recognize that transfer payment funding cuts to the conservation authorities were initially implemented in 1995 and have subsequently never been increased in the 22 years since, remaining at the same $1995 value, with the only change being the further cut of several $100,000 directed at the two largest of the authorities, Toronto Region and Grand River. As a member municipality of our local conservation authority, we followed with interest the multi-year review of the Conservation Authorities Act, in which a consistent message was heard from virtually all stakeholders that there was a need for the province of Ontario to address the chronic underfunding of the conservation authorities. We wish to point out that while the base funding for conservation authorities comes through the MNRF, Ministry of Natural Resources and Fisheries, and the MOECC, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, for drinking water source protection, the work that conservation authorities do in partnership with those ministries also benefits other provincial ministries through their various programs and projects of the authorities, i.e. education, health, agriculture, food and rural affairs, municipal affairs and housing, tourism, recreation and culture, infrastructure, and community safety. Further, we observed that during debate on Bill 139 addressing the proposed amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act, MPPs of all parties were supportive of the work of the conservation authorities and acknowledged the need to address the chronic underfunding. We also observed that the subsequent passage of Bill 139 received all party support so as to be passed in the legislature in December of 2017. The Council of the City of Owen Sound hereby requests that the Province of Ontario demonstrate their all-party support for conservation authorities and the work that they do on behalf of all of our taxpayers by increasing the transfer payment allocation through reallocation of dollars from other benefiting provincial ministries or other new revenues, i.e. carbon cap and trade revenues. Then I would further probably think it should be sent to our MPP Bill Walker and leaders Premier Doug Ford, leaders Andrea Horwath and Mike Schreiner, Ministry of the Natural Resources and the Ministry of the Environment, as well as the Grey Salvo Conservation Authority.
Good, thank you. Councillor Kupke?
While I support wholly the request for funding, I'm just questioning, is there already a motion out there or a letter already out there to the province requesting this funding? And if so, why are we not just supporting that request? Looks like we're making a whole new request and starting the ball all over again.
I think what we're doing here is following up on information that was disseminated through AMO to municipalities to take it upon themselves and endorse that resolution that came from Conservation Ontario. I don't believe I've recalled seeing any particular correspondence along the way through our consent agendas that came from AMO to Owen Sound. So this is flowing through the Conservation Authority, asking for each municipality to be more powerful as a group than as singles.
So then why are we not also asking all the municipalities in their watershed to support this as well?
As the rep on Grey Salvo Conservation Authority, it's been asked by the CAO of the Conservation Authority that each municipality and the County of Grey support this resolution, and requested of the provincial government.
So just so I understand, each municipality has been asked by Grace Harbor Conservation Authority to do their own resolution to the province.
Correct.
So, and we've got one that, you're using one that has been used by one of our neighbors and follows through and, okay. Any other discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Discussion of additional business. Councillor Gregg, you're up. Need some water?
Good thing I drank my clean water from Owen Sound. Actually, I had a nice privilege yesterday to be able to attend an unveiling of a donor plaque garden, which is was presented by the Sydenham Bruce Trail Club, and it occurred just off of Lindenwood Road. But as we're all familiar, the Niagara Escarpment does run through our community here, enters on the the southeast corner, and kind of operates or goes, forms like a horseshoe through the south end of Owen Sound and then exits back along the western side. But the Bruce Trail plaque ceremony is an opportunity for the association and the Bruce Trail Conservancy to demonstrate to the public their appreciation for various donors of land for the protection of this, what will be, hopefully, a ribbon of conservation extending about 100 and, oh gosh, I forget the total distance of the Niagara Escarpment off the top of my head. Perhaps the mayor might recall he took part in the baton relay, I think, a year ago.
It's a long way from one end to the other.
Could be 870 kilometers or something, but just to give you some numbers, last year, $3 million of land value was secured by the Bruce Trail Conservancy, and they're hoping to announce $4 million of land value conserved for future generations in fall of 2018. This is land that's generously donated by perhaps landowners or been able to be purchased with financial donors by various people. So very interesting. They actually were very receptive and open to perhaps coming to council and making a very interesting deputation for council in the future as well. So hopefully we will hear from them.
890 kilometers end to end.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Worship. I hope with the rest of the council will forgive me. I do have a second additional item that I would hope to bring up, so
I'll allow you.
thank you. Thank you. I don't know, I didn't want to take up any time. We've got the first one, June 21st. I wanted to give up a reminder that the Young Professionals Network Creative Mixer is fast approaching. This is the last time that I'll be on council prior to the event, so I wanted to give it one last quick little plug. We were able to find out that they were able to open up capacity a little bit further because we've had such a great response to it. We're about 10 days away, 11 days away from the event, June 21st, 7 p.m. at Coffin Ridge. Currently, we hit 100 this morning for registration, and they have said that because it's going to be potentially some really nice weather, they've added another 30 spaces there, so we have about 50 more spaces left that we can fill. We have 2 buses that are going out from Grey County Administration Building to Coffin Ridge, which are both at half full currently, so I think this is going to be another great event for the Young Professionals Network, so it's great to get out there, and if someone out there has not, or if media would love to advise some of their public readers how to attend this event, you have to register through ypncoffinridge.eventbrite.ca. The second one I wanted to kind of bring up, on this past Sunday, there was Owen Sound's first Pride Parade. I wanted to see if council would be in favor with asking for a letter of thanks to be sent to Ryan Brown, the 16-year-old from Owen Sound District Secondary School, congratulating him on his event that he has put on. That was 1,000 people turned out to that event. I can tell you from individuals that were in my age group. There was individuals who traveled from Toronto, Hamilton, Kingston to come up to that event for to show their support of what people taking pride in themselves. So I wanted to see if council would support that request to send a letter of thanks to Ryan Brown for being, to be honest, 16 years old and taking that on and putting the coordination that he did do in there. That's a huge accomplishment for him, and I think we need to give him some support.
Thanks. We can do that. Do that very easily, right? Yep. Good thinking. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a note to Councillor Dodd, I am getting together my youthful kit, Grecian formula and a fake ID, so I can go to the unprofessional session myself. Sounds like a lot of fun. Two things, Your Worship. Just a reminder from the Board of Health from the Grey Bruce Health Unit that they have presently a community well-being survey. It's been delivered to about 25% of homes within its catchment area. And they just asked us to give a reminder to people through our council venue here that those surveys should be filled out. They are going to really assist in understanding lifestyle and health issues in Grey and Bruce, and will help identify future initiatives to support well-being of people in our community. So if you have received one of those surveys at your home, you've got until June 25th to get it filled out and to get it sent in, and certainly you can contact the local health unit if you have any inquiries about that survey. The other thing I'd like to mention, Your Worship, is the Corkscrew City Beer Bus Tour. This is a new initiative coming to us through our tourism coordinator, and basically it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a beer bus, and it's a tour, and it'll be dealing with the storied past of Owen Sound, the last dry city in Canada, and yours truly will be one of the tour guides on board the bus. And basically it's a bus that holds about 12 people and comes out of Collingwood actually for this year. There'll be 4 tours this summer, June 22nd, August 17th, July 20th, and September 14th. And it's about a 4-hour tour of local hotspots. It actually says on here, fill your flasks at the hippest watering holes in Owen Sound. And of course, you got the key hipster going to be on the tour himself. So if people are interested, there is a website. It is corkscrewcitytour.ca, where they can find out more information about this tour. Or you can call our tourism office at 519-371-9833, and I guarantee it's going to be fun.
You got your songs prepared?
I won't be doing any singing.
99 bottles of beer. I bet you can get through it 3 times.
Temperance songs, Your Worship.
Bet you can get through it 4 times.
Songs.
Good, thank you. The last 2 weeks, I've attended 21 different events, meetings, different things, everything ranging from meeting of residents with the concerns about things that we do or we don't do. TAC barbecues, a couple of events, Veterans Commemoration Day at Billy Bishop, as well as with Billy Bishop Museum going to Seasons. Just to try and pick out a couple of them, I attended St. Mary's Grade 12 Challenge and Change Society students, and each of them had a really neat project on how they would like to change the city and how they'd go about it, and it was really creative, well-researched, everything from actually organizing graffiti art to very serious issues of dealing with murderers in jail and different things. Really a creative class. I attended with Mr. Ritchie to the Bruce the Bruce Power License Safety Board review. Mr. Ritchie presented, Kim Wingrove from the county just before us, Saugeen Shores just before that, somewhere just after us, Bruce Peninsula Warden, Bruce County Warden would have presented. Very interesting process, and I think it would be fun to have sat there all day long and listened to the different discussions that are happening at a very interesting, high level. Pride flag, we've raised that here. I attended the Air Marshal William Avery Bishop VC 167 Squadron, their 76th annual ceremonial review. Great bunch of kids. It's always fascinating to see how hard they work, and they do a lot of different things in our community, attending and supporting Remembrance Day, for example, and doing things at the Billy Bishop Home and Museum, and just a wonderful bunch of kids. I believe this Saturday, Deputy Mayor Wright's going to attend for me to the Army cadets. Grace Simcoe Forester cadets, is their review happens as well. Another impressive group of kids. This past Saturday, I attended the Active Lifestyle Center next door, multicultural art reception and story share. There were 4 people that have come from different backgrounds around the world that are now living in Owen Sound that told their story, as well as both chiefs from the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation that discussed their background, and it was a very interesting day. Yesterday I attended the Indigenous 150 Plus film and conversation at Heartwood. If you ever get a chance to see a movie called Empire of Dirt, Canadian-made, Toronto International Film Festival, I think it was an award winner in 2013, I think. A really, really good movie is what they showed yesterday. Again, both chiefs were there, a lot of elders from Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, a lot of good discussion. The next one that we are hosting will be at Heartwood as well. It is on the weekend of our Harbor Fest, which I believe is July 14th. If you get an opportunity, it is fun to go and learn things really about our history right here in this area, a big part of it. It's sometimes we get pushed out of our position that we're very comfortable with, and it's good to get pushed out of the position that you're comfortable with when you learn something, and I certainly did the last 2 days. I started off talking at the Multicultural Arts Center as all of us grew up here. You know, we had 2 channels. Everybody on those 2 TV channels looked a lot like us, and we didn't learn much about the rest of the world. And with world travel, multiculturalism, we now have those channels filled in within our own community, and have people with different backgrounds and different religions, and just had the most wonderful discussion with somebody about coming from Iraq and how he got here and living here and how his life was there. And we're lucky to have those people. We're going to need more people from around the world into the future as we figure out a shortage of labor. It's going to be very important that we have people around the world moving into our area and that we're accepting of them. Right now we have a shortage of labor. We have employers that are looking for labor. They need more labor, and we don't have enough here. So it's important to bring people in to start to fill that need. Other than that, moving forward again, June 28th, I mentioned this last meeting at the Art Gallery. Recognizing the 25th anniversary of Provincial Parks, we have the show that's on right now, Tom Thompson and the Group of 7. We will have an event that night called Campfire that's going to be fun and a little bit hokey, and a good way to look at the art and come in and see it and pretend you went back to summer camp. It's going to be lots of fun. So keep that in mind. That's June 28th, which is Thursday night going into the long weekend. That's my list. So, number 18, motion.
Moved by myself, the committee rise and report.
All in favor? That is carried. 19. Motions to adopt proceedings.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor O'Leary, that the actions taken in committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputations, and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business be confirmed by this council.
Good, all in favor? That is carried. Number 20, notices of motion. Seeing none. Bylaws.
Through your worship, the bylaws listed for approval on today's agenda include the confirmatory bylaw, a bylaw to execute a municipal access agreement with GBTEL for telecommunication services, a bylaw to execute an agreement with Creative Outdoor Advertising for the installation of advertising amenities in public spaces, a bylaw to execute an amending site plan agreement with McAsphalt Industries at 2250 20th Street East, a bylaw to amend the delegation of powers and duties bylaw respecting lame duck council periods, a bylaw to execute an agreement with AMO for the Main Street revitalization funding, a bylaw to execute an agreement with the Minister of National Defense for Canadian Forces use of the Billy Bishop Regional Airport, a bylaw to amend the board and committee bylaw for an appointment to the Accessibility Advisory Committee, a bylaw to execute a site plan agreement with Torman Incorporated for 872 to 884 10th Street West, and a bylaw to amend the appointed officers bylaw to appoint a chief building official.
Thank you.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor O'Leary, that the bylaws number 2018-80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 87, 88, 89, and 2018-90 be hereby passed and enacted.
So no 86?
Correct.
Okay. All in favor? That is carried. So that completes our business for today. I've got 2:37. Business is completed. We'll adjourn. Thanks, everybody.